was in court all morning. Hot tip, kids. Pay your credit cards, because they will sue you. Anyway, I'm very tired today, because I didn't sleep because I was anxious about the thing. And I did the thing, and I came home, and I napped for like 6 hours. And then I finally joined TikTok and hurt my neck doing my first ever video, like an ancient swamp witch. So let's get down to it. It's gonna be fun. Oh, my makeup is all kinds of smudgy because I slept on my face. Everything's blurry. It's fine now. Today, I'd like to start a series about why I think every writer should take acting classes. And I'm going to start with improv, because why they should take acting classes specifically is a much larger episode than just one short conversation with you guys. And I'd really like to get into some of the details. But for now, with everyone wrapping up NaNoWriMo and dealing with writer's block issues, I specifically think improv is a good one to talk about. I have been acting since I was 10. Yeah, 10. And I genuinely think it has made me a better writer. However, improv has done a very unique thing in that it helps me break through my writer's block a little bit. My mentor always said the best way to think your way out of writer's block is to ask, what else? That's a really good strategy, because if you think about it, a lot of the times you are having issues moving forward in your writing, not because what you're about to write is going to be bad, but because what you already wrote is bad. And I like to take this a step further and make it a little easier to manage by employing an improv game I call Shoulda Said. That's what it was called when I was learning it way back in high school at the Idiot Box Improv Comedy Club in Greensboro. Thanks, guys. You're the best. The game goes like this. People play it different ways, but this is how I learned. We're going along doing a scene, 2 people, 3 people, whatever, and there's always a judge on the side. And at any point during the scene, that judge can say, shoulda said, and the last person who spoke changes the line they just said. And they can do this over and over and over again until the judge hears something they enjoy. One of 2 things will happen, usually. 1, you'll end up escalating the scene in a humorous way. For instance, I say, Jimmy, where'd you get that severed head? Judge says, shoulda said. Okay. Jimmy, where'd you get that severed arm? Judge says, shoulda said. Okay, you want something else? Jimmy, why are you wearing the neighbor's skin like a suit? You axe-murdering weirdo. It went a little bit higher. And maybe the judge hears something they like, and then you're taking the scene in a whole different direction for humor. But sometimes the interesting thing that will happen is I'll say, Jimmy, why are you holding that severed head? Judge says, shoulda said, and I go through the normal escalation, and they keep saying shoulda said, until finally I completely change tracks and say something radically different. Jimmy, want to go for ice cream? It's a simple change, but in the scope of the scene, it can change everything. Oftentimes taking a complete turn in the other direction throws off the audience, makes the judge laugh, and gives you fresh life for the scene. Because what was originally going to be a scene about axe-murdering Jimmy, who's coming in with severed body parts, and it will turn into a horror or a comedy slasher film, is now something about a trip to the grocery store. Or something about, we're all axe murderers, and I don't ask him where the head is from anymore, we just go for ice cream. Either way, I've instilled a different angle of conversation and intent in my character. If the actor playing Jimmy has come on with a severed head prop, and I don't acknowledge it, that opens up a whole new realm of possibilities for my character and why I don't care. I'm not ignoring it, I just am used to it. This is probably a terrible example, by the way. It's just, as I mentioned, I had a day. I'm very tired, and my neck hurts from TikTok. And you get the point. The great thing about writing this way is sometimes if you're sitting there and you're stuck, instead of trying to figure out, what can I do differently here? What can they say differently in this range of emotion? You can stretch completely out to, what can they say differently that totally propels this scene in another direction? And why does it make sense? That's happened to me a lot of times, where I've taken a scene that I thought was going to go one way, and I had to backtrack and ask myself, well, why would Neil be okay with this? Oh, I should say something different here, and it's going to make an interesting entire plot points, entire chapters Entire characters have been born in my series because I played shoulda said with myself in my mind. Improv teaches those kinds of games. And it's not just shoulda said that helps you break through writer's block. While all acting classes are wonderful for the exploration of character development and the exploration of sharing scene work, which I think is important for making sure one main character isn't saying every single line in your book. I have some examples I will get into in that video. It'll be fun. Improv helps you think on your feet in a very different sort of way. Because in actual scripted performance, you know what props you're going to have. You know where you're going to come in and go and whatever. With improv, you're basing it all around audience suggestions. You're basing it all around whatever props are available in this random box of props that are just there. You're basing it on the person who decides to jump into the scene with you even though you don't like performing with them and they really, really bug you. You have to think about ways to redirect or acknowledge what's happening right now. The great thing about that mentality is it translates so well into writing because your mind is used to finding these little moments, grabbing them and running with them. Anything from one word suggestion from the audience you can suddenly do an entire scene about. That's so true in writing because sometimes you'll be writing a scene, you'll be working on something, and you'll just casually list a set piece. You'll casually list a location or a person, and your brain by itself, without you really doing anything about it, will just go, oh, but what if this was here? Your brain's already used to grabbing and running and expanding on small seeds of ideas. It just gives you the potential for such a richer world. Because if you've plotted out everything, and this is nothing against plotters. As I mentioned, I am not a plotter. I am a right by the seat of my pants kind of girl. I think I mentioned that in my first video. If I didn't, I apologize, and I'll talk about it at length at a later date. But the point is, if you have that improv background, if you have improv training, if you've gotten good at it, even if you've gotten mediocre at it, the same skills used to spur of the moment come up with a fun idea on stage can be absolutely copy-pasted into your manuscript. You'd be amazed the amount of times that your mental training from improv classes will come into play when you're writing your book. It gives you the potential to take something you never imagined was going to be a big deal and make it the crux of your story. If you've plotted and scripted and planned every single thing, that's not always the case. And even if you do plot and script and plan and want to stick to it, that's fine. But having that improv training and the ability to look at the paper and say, yes, this was great, but here's this one thing I can make better. It's invaluable. It's fantastic. It's also going to loosen you up and it's a lot of fun. And you'll have really good stories to come back on later. So that was my quick little pitch on why all writers should take improv classes. I'm going to keep this series going with why you should take other acting classes because I think it's very important. That's how I've made my living for a decade. And I've been performing for even longer than that. I've first set foot on stage when I was 3 years old, dancing in my little tutu, and it never stopped. Dance, piano, voice, youth choir, which was a whole other thing, band, class, and then the stage, where I found my whole heart. And I love it so much. But it has done nothing but help my writing. The development of characters, the development of worlds, the development of story and dialogue. Oh, that's a big one. Dialogue. If you're ever having trouble with dialogue and you know that's your struggle, improv classes. Because you suddenly have to get very used to what would I say in this scene. And then you can translate that to your characters. Immediate, spur of the moment. It doesn't have to be great. You can just say something, and your character can just say something. It takes a lot of the pressure off of trying to think perfect dialogue. You sometimes throw stuff against the wall in improv. The great thing is, in writing, you can go back and fix it. In improv, it's there forever. With writing, you can make it up as you go. You can sit down and just improvise your way through stuff and then fix it. So, open up your brain. Have a good time. Find a local class. Find a local level 1 class. And if you like it, keep going. At the very least, it'll be a nice little way to relax your brain and let it think a moment at a time again. Anyway, I thank you all for being here. I had a comment on my Facebook of where are my videos? I miss you. So thanks for that, because that made me want to come back. I was very tired and overwhelmed this week. So I stopped. And now I'm going to record 19 videos in a row so that I don't miss time again, because I like you guys. So until next time, insert catchphrase here. I don't know.